Spurs. The big news, really, obviously, that was kind of inevitable with everything that's been going on at Tottenham. That loss against Manchester United proving to be very much the last straw. What's interesting is who's lined up to be the replacement. Reports suggesting that Antonio Conte on Tuesday morning will be officially announced as the new manager, Craig. This is a good move for Spurs, isn't it?
Well, it seems like this is the guy that they wanted initially and couldn't get it done. I mean, everybody knew that Espirito Santo wasn't... What are you laughing at?
What?
What are you giggling at?
No. Nothing.
I'm only just back and you're sat there smirking.
I was smirking at you, I was smirking at him. Go on, fire away, go on.
Right. Shall we start again?
No, it's live.
No, I know it's live. Shall we start the answer?
Shall we to ask the question again?
I know it's live. I mean, shall we start the question again? Is it a good move for Tottenham? Yeah, in the short term. But if you look at Conte's record at all the clubs he's been at, a year, 2 years, a year, two. There was, I think, 3 or so at Juventus. So it's short term, but it's much better than what they had. But somebody has to tell him he has a club that don't spend money much, even though they promise. And we're hearing that again.
Yep.
January transfer window. Big money signings. Don't think so. One, you've got to attract them. Two, you've got to pay for them. And three, he's got a very unhappy captain who's not playing well. So... not an easy job for him, I don't think, when you look at the other teams in the Premier League vying for the big spots. Not an easy job, and I could see it being frustrating for him.
Stevie?
Well, I can't argue you can always do better because they've been so bad that they can only get better. But the truth is, they need a lot of changes. Yes, you've got Kane and Son. That means that at least you've got you've got a chance of getting some goals and maybe creating some chances. But what's going on behind those two in particular is awful. And that takes a lot of money to fix. And Conte, in recent years, is a guy who's gone out and spent 80 million on one player. Spurs can't do that. And Spurs can't afford to do that because they need so many players. They're going to have to go about it the way the likes of Liverpool did 6 years ago when they're signing people like Mane, who it's somewhat of a risk. You've got Salah, who was somewhat of a risk as well, having failed at Chelsea. You've got Firmino from the Bundesliga, who, again, nobody was really sure of. That's the only way Tottenham get better. And that doesn't seem to be how Conte works. His is, give me the dough, I'll get the players, and off we go. It's not happening at Spurs.
Frank, you've never been a big fan of Antonio Conte, critical of him a lot, saying you hate watching his style of football.
Well, you know, we have to give credit to what he achieved, you know, as a coach. I don't like the way he makes his team playing. That's another thing. I don't know the person. I won't judge the person, but I don't like the way he makes his player play. What I see, you know, on this signing is that Tottenham would have to be ready to spend lots of money. First, to say goodbye to Mr. Espirito Santo after 17 games, and then to the salary of Mr. Conte, because I'm pretty sure that guy is not cheap, and then to the player they would have to buy in January. So that's going to be a really turn of heaven, a big turn of heaven for Spurs, because they're not used to that. But they seem to have money because they don't want to sell Kane. They're ready to get rid of a coach after 17 games. So it should be interesting to see, you know, what's going to happen there, and if Antonio Conte can be successful as well with players they will have to buy in order to get something out of it at the end of the season.
And at Chelsea, he came in, he had great success. I mean, Juventus and obviously Inter lately, it was very short, but at Chelsea, he came in, he had great success, but then the rumour was the players got a bit fed up with it.
Yeah.
You know, and the way it was going about it and the antics on the sideline and sort of all that. And listen, when Mourinho came in at Spurs, it was all smiles to start with, don't forget, and
yes.
they played some good football, got some results, he was happy.
Ali's twin, all that sort of
And then things started to take a turn for the worse because things unravel. When your squad's not good enough, you get results for a certain amount of period, but then no matter what you do, the bigger teams will always be the bigger teams, the better squads, the better players. And you can coach the hind legs off a donkey sometimes, but you just can't get it done. And I think that's the frustration that I think Conte will eventually get here. I think he'll get a tune out of them,
right?
To some
short term,
to some extent. But unless, as Frank said, they go and spend, and try and match these other teams, which we know they certainly haven't had the appetite for so far, it's going to be difficult. I personally think he's a good coach, but I think this is the wrong appointment for Spurs. I think Spurs need to take a longer-term view. And that, for me, I mean, there are many candidates, but one that sticks out, and I think he will go somewhere, is Graham Potter at Brighton. I think what he did, I think it was Österunds in Scandinavia, with a tiny budget, was amazing. I think what he's done at Brighton, and I thought it was harsh when Houghton got sacked, because I thought, my God, Brighton, what, you know, this could go wrong. But they said, no, we've had enough of being just hard to beat and finishing fourth bottom. We want to be better. Last year, they played really well, but were lightweight up front. This season, they've started really well, and they're much more of a threat. I think longer term, he works with less money. I think he's got a longer term view. And I think for Spurs, that for me would be a better fit and a much more patient way to go about it than just saying, let's fight some fires for a year or two and then see where we are.
According to reports, it's Conte who.
No, I know that, but I'm just saying, I personally think that's a better way to look at it.
Right. Alessandro, obviously, you've worked with Conte. You think of him and he kind of lives up to this stereotype of being angry, moody, hard to kind of get along with. Is that true in real life?
He's a coach that pretend a lot from his player. That's for sure. And he's a guy that, you know, spend a lot of time on the field, outside the field. That's the only question mark that I have. When you have a guy like him, you prefer to start at the beginning of the season. So you have to spend time on the preseason to adapt not only the players, but the game that you want to play with the players and the opposite. Because he needs time to develop what he has in mind. And he's pretending a lot. So when you have somebody that pretending every day, every minute of the day, constantly, not satisfied if you win a game or 2 or 3 in a row and move for the fourth, that's how you can become a little annoying for the players. But I mean, the last season that he had an incredible success, including at Inter. And yeah, it's true that after 1 or 2 seasons is very tough to continue with him. But it's also true that the teams that he coached after him, they're still doing well. Because Juve did amazing, Chelsea continue to do great, and Inter this year is still a great team with a big possibility to win the league again.
Stevie brought up the fan, obviously, but in the past, he's been given money to spend. Lukaku, of course, just last year at Inter Milan. There'll be no opportunity, Alessandro, for that to happen at Spurs, not certainly to that level. How quickly will his patience run out if he doesn't get the money, doesn't get the players that he demands?
Well, it depends on the ambition of the Spurs. I mean, this year, if Conte going to accept and they're going to go through, they need to find a way to stay together. Next year, it will be the one that determines what they're going to do. And from my point of view, they don't need Lukaku because they have Kane. I mean, Kane is one of the best strikers in the world. And so, you need to work on some other areas from my point of view. That's another thing. But, you know, the environment, the Spurs environment, I think they need to end up in winning something as soon as possible. You know, it's a great club, you know, with a big potential, new stadium, great fans. I mean, you need to achieve something, and that's why probably they move so fast with the Espirito Santo and try to find a new coach.
They surely, Spurs, are better off with a Graham Potter than a Conte. Because right now, every single thing that happens at Tottenham is all over the news, all over the paper, certainly in the football world. Conte's just going to bring even more spotlight. And Conte's not going to have a chance to get things right because it's constantly be going, the headlights are going to be on it. You know, you bring in a Potter, it's kind of like what you did with Pochettino. You brought in Pochettino knowing that he did well with a team like Southampton, who aren't expected to do anything, and then it was kind of a slow burner, and eventually they get to the Champions League. Surely that's better for Spurs. Because if Conte comes in, the spotlight's just going to be even brighter.
But in all fairness to him as well, he's, you know, that budget at Brighton, his team play, you know, it's not just because they're off the back of a very good result at Anfield. It's a generalisation of a couple of years at least work that he's put in there, and they play from the back. They get it on the deck. I mean, if they'd had a decent a bit of punch up front last year, they would have been much higher up than they were. And obviously they've started great. I just think longer term, I just think Spurs are bouncing from one thing to the next. We had all these managers talked about in the summer. Then we had the debacle with Harry Kane. And listen, Harry Kane, do you think he thinks because Antonio Conte is going to come in, all of a sudden everything's rosy in the garden again?
Right.
Oh, Tottenham are going to be challenging now. We've got Antonio Conte. And I'm going to lift my chin off the floor and start playing a bit better. No, I don't think so. I mean, he might get a few more goals and look a bit happier short term, but he knows the gap between them and the real big guys is huge. Millions and millions and millions of dollars. And if Daniel Levy and Joe Lewis, the owner,